Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And this is just going to be a video. I wanted to address a comment or a question that was left on this video that I did the day he comes back. All right, it was left by I think that's B, Pamela, and the question was, I saw in Matthew 27 and 51 to 55 that people were raised during the death of Messiah. Please, can you help throw more light on that? Because the Messiah is the first to resurrect from death, right? But according to that verse, they were raised before the Messiah was even buried. Please, what kind of bodies did they have? Thanks. So Lord's willing, we're going to go through that and also go through a few other precepts, to bring some edification, answer the question. All right, and Lord willing to be edifying. Now, just dealing with one part here. When you deal with, matter of fact, let me start off here with the book of Ecclesiastes. All right, chapter 12, verse 7. And it says, then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. And this is what happens when you die. All right, when you die, your spirit goes back to the spirit world, and your body, that's why you get buried into the earth. So your body breaks down, all right, and decomposes into the, into the earth, into the ground. Now you have two ways of coming back on the earth, right? Your spirit coming back on the earth, and that's one through resurrection and another is through reincarnation. Okay, now these are two different things. And you have reincarnation is when you come back on the earth in a different body, all right, about 3 to 4 generations later. Okay, so you die. Maybe in this lifetime, your name is John, and you end up dying, and then you come back in the reincarnation. All right, meaning in another 3 to 4 generations or so, your spirit would now come back. You would be born, as a baby, and then it's the same spirit that's in you, but then you would grow up, and then you'd live your life. You wouldn't have memory of your past life, of course. Okay, but that's reincarnation, and then you have resurrection. Okay, and resurrection is really, as they call it, coming back. It's like coming back from the dead. And so I have a couple of examples here that I'm going to go into to show that resurrection. An example would be if, like Lazarus. Okay, Lazarus, which I have here, the story of Lazarus. Actually, I don't have it queued up. Let me set it up here. Lazarus was resurrected. He wasn't reincarnated, but he was resurrected. Okay, meaning that after Lazarus had died, the Lord basically fixed his body back together and was able to call down his spirit back into him, as well as the girl. Damn, I forgot what precept it was, but there was an instance where Yahweh Shai went into the room, and there was a girl that had died, and he said she's sleeping. And the people laughed him to scorn. So he basically had them all put out. And then he basically called down her spirit back into her body. So she was resurrected. Okay. She wasn't reincarnated in a different body. Her spirit came back into the same body, and she was, living again. Okay. So that's like an example of resurrection. Now, as a matter of fact, let me look up here on the online etymology and see what they have as a definition of resurrection. Okay, resurrection. They have resurrection. It says the rising again of Hamashiach after his death and burial. They also have here the rising. All right, so you see here it says a rising again from the dead. Okay, now when you are reincarnated, you're not necessarily rising again from the dead, meaning your body that you were in when you died, that's not the one that's rising back. You're being given a new body. Your spirit is coming back on the earth, but it's coming back in a new body. Now here you can see it says rise again, appear again, because that first body you were in during resurrection, once it dies, if you get resurrected, that body rises again because your spirit comes back into it, and then it's able to function again. All right, so it's like how they say a cat has 9 lives. So it dies one time, then it comes back to life, and that's like resurrection. So when you deal with the question here about the Lord being the first to resurrect from death, not per se, because there's different accounts, all right, in the Old Testament prior to Yahweh's death that could be considered as resurrection. Okay, and one of them is let's pull it up real quick. When Elijah brought back the widow woman's son. Okay, let's see now. By this I know. There we go. So the first one here, this is the book of 1 Kings chapter 17, verse let's see. All right, verse 7, 1 Kings 17 and 17. And it came to pass after these things that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick, and his sickness was so sore that there was no breath left in him. And she said unto Elijah, What have I to do with thee, O thou man of God? Art thou come unto me to call my sin to remembrance and to slay my son? And he said unto her, Give me thy son. And he took him out of her bosom, and carried him up into a loft, where he abode, and laid him upon his own bed. And he cried unto the Lord, and said, O Lord, my power, hast thou also brought evil upon the widow with whom I sojourn, by slaying her son? See? So he had died. Okay, the child basically fell sick and died, and the Lord had it to where this is what took place. Okay, so verse 21, it says, And he stretched himself upon the child 3 times, and cried unto the Lord Yahweh, and said, O Yahweh, my power, I pray thee, let this child's soul come into him again. And the Lord heard the voice of Elijah, and the soul of the child came into him again, and he revived. Okay, now let me actually look up this word here, revived. And it has here chaya. Okay, chaya. And as it says here, to live, to have life, to sustain life, to remain alive, to be restored to life or health. Okay, to revive. There you go. So this is an example of rising back up again. The Lord blessed Elijah with the power to be able to resurrect the widow woman's son. All right, he died. His spirit left his body, as we read in Ecclesiastes 12 and 7. And then Elijah prayed to the Lord, and so the Lord then revived him by putting his spirit back and allowing the child's body to rise again. Okay, that's resurrection. In that same lifetime, the child didn't come back, in a different lifetime, in a different body. It was the same body. The spirit came back into him, and he resurrected. He revived. Okay. It says, And Elijah took the child and brought him down out of the chamber into the house, and delivered him unto his mother. And Elijah said, See, thy son liveth. And the woman said to Elijah, Now by this I know that thou art a man of God, and that the word of Yahweh in thy mouth is truth, or is truth. So that is one example prior to Yahweh's death, okay, and rising from the dead, okay, of resurrection. So and there's also another one. Let me see, bones. Let's see. There we go. Here's another account. This is the book of 2 Kings. Now this was dealing with I believe it was Elisha. All right, and it says here, 2 Kings 13 and 20, this is when he died, because the spirit was so heavy upon him. Okay, remember, he had asked for a double portion, of the spirit that Elijah had. So 2 Kings 13:20, it says, and Elisha died, and they buried him. And the bands of the Moabites invaded the land at the coming in of the year. And it came to pass, as they were burying a man, that behold, they spied a band of men, and they cast the man into the sepulchre of Elisha. And when the man was let down and touched the bones of Elisha, he revived and stood upon his feet. So this was a dead man, somebody that was dead, that was about to be buried. And when they saw the Moabites coming, they basically just cast him into the sepulcher, his dead body. And when he was cast in there, his dead body touched the bones of Elisha, who was already dead. And just by touching Elisha's bones, this man was able to revive, all right, or resurrect, come back to life, and stand upon his feet and just live. Okay, so that's another another account of resurrection, of somebody dying and coming back to life in that same generation, in that same body, okay, without having to be reincarnated. And this took place before the New Testament, before Yahushua rose from the dead. Okay, and this goes to show you why these devils, they want to dig up, bones and find, the bodies of the different, men of old, because it shows you that even after death, the power was still residing even in the bones of Elisha. That's how heavy of a spirit he had. So right here, the Messiah being the first to resurrect from death, not really. Okay, however, Yahushua's death and resurrection was different. Okay, it wasn't just the same as these previous ones that I read, because there was a much heavier significance behind his death and his resurrection. Okay, so now I want to go into the book of actually, as a matter of fact, let me address a bit more concerning why Yahushua's death and resurrection was different, because then after that I'm going to address this part right here about those rising from the dead at the death of Yahushua. Now, this is the book Salakia of Revelation chapter 1 verse 18, and it says, I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore, amen, and have the keys of hell and of death, because Yahushua was perfect when he came as Yahushua. He was a lamb without blemish. He committed no sin. So his death wasn't as a penalty of sin, but it was a sacrifice. And it was in order for him to then be fully perfect and to conquer death. Okay, and that's why after he died, of course, for the nation of Israel as well, for our sins and all of that. But there was a heavy significance in Yahushua's death, being that it was a sacrifice. Okay, and by going into the grave, the scriptures tell you, as I'm about to get, that the grave didn't even have the power to hold him. Okay, and so by going there and going through that sacrifice and being resurrected, coming back alive, that's why it says, and have the keys of hell and of death. He conquered death. And as Paul mentions in the 1 Corinthians chapter 15, that we have gained a victory over death and the grave through Yahushua, because he was the first to conquer death. Okay, not the first to come back to life after dying, but the first to conquer death. Okay, and that's why he has the position that he has, a name greater than any other creature. The only one above Yahushua is the Most High Yahweh. Okay, so as it says here, and have the keys of hell, which is the grave, and of death. So the Lord has the power to over life and death. Okay, the next precept is Acts 2:24. It says, whom the Most High hath raised up. This is talking about Yahushua, having loosed the pains of death, because it was not possible that he should be holden of it. All right. It was not possible for the Lord to be held by death. All right. And that's why in turn he was able to conquer death. And through him, we gained the victory over death. That's why we're going to be immortal. That's why we're going to get our bodies changed. That's why we're going to be made perfect, because the Lord set that path. And now through him, we're going to gain that as well. Okay. So no, he wasn't the first to resurrect from the dead, all right, or resurrect from death, but he was the first to conquer death. Okay. Meaning that death has no power over him and soon to be over us because of Yahweh Shai. So dealing with that part now, we're going to go into Matthew 27 and 51 to 55 and read the account going into those that rose at the death of Yahweh Shai. Okay. And it says here, Matthew chapter 27, I'm going to start at 45 just to get a bit more context. It says, now from the 6th hour, there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. And they go in increments of like 3. So the 3rd hour would be 9 a.m. in the morning, because you start counting at 6 a.m. So the 3rd hour would be 3 hours from 6 a.m. and that would be 9 a.m. The 6th hour would be 3 hours from then, and that would be 12 p.m. noon. Okay. The 9th hour would be an additional 3 hours from 12 p.m. like counting in today's time, and that would put you right around 3 p.m. So here, from the 6th hour, from around 12 noon to there was darkness over the land onto the 9th hour. All right. So a good 3 hours from about today, you would say like around noon to around 3. Okay. So there was this darkness. It says, and about the 9th hour, Yahweh Shai cried with a loud voice, saying, here it says, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. All right. That is to say, my power, why hast thou forsaken me? Which in the Hebrew is Aliyah, Aliyah. And let me see if I can get the rest here, because sometimes it takes it back to the Hebrew, but okay, it doesn't really show the Hebrew here. But Aliyah is my power. All right. Allah is power. Yah at the end, making it my power. Okay. So it says, that is to say, my power, or my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Some of them that stood there, when they heard that, said, this man calleth for Elias, right? Aliyah. It says, and straightway one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink. The rest said, let be. Let us see whether Elias will come to save him. Yahweh Shai, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost, so he died. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. So it was a very heavy time when Yahweh Shai died. There was a darkness for a span of 3 hours before he died. And when he died, the earth was quaking. Okay, the veil rent. So there was a lot of symbolism on the right hand side. All right, going on. It says, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose. And the saints are Israelites. It says, and came out of the graves after his resurrection. Okay. And came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city and appeared unto many. Okay, so coming back here, just to clarify, I saw in Matthew 27, 51 and 55 that people were raised during the death of Messiah. Please, can you throw more light on that? Because the Messiah is the first to resurrect from death, right? But according to that verse, they were raised before the Messiah was even buried. And it's normal, it's likely that you read over that part and you didn't catch it, but I'm going to emphasize it here that they didn't rise before his death, or during his death. It says they came out of the graves after his resurrection. Okay. Now keep in mind that the book of Matthew is written in a way where it's in between verses. There could be a jump, right? Matthew really compiled the verses as events that happened, things that the Lord said, not necessarily, okay, the Lord said this, and then, he walked here a bit and then he said this, or he encountered these people and he said this, and then 2 days later he said, so it's more so this happened, this happened, this happened. Okay. The accounts of this happened, this happened, this happened. All right. So Matthew 27:53, and came out of the graves, the saints, right? After his resurrection, meaning after Yahushua had rose, after he had risen from the dead, they came out from the graves, okay, and went into the holy city and appeared unto many. And then it goes back to, what happened then. It says, now when the centurion and they that were with him watching Yahushua saw the earthquake and those things that were done, they feared greatly, saying, truly this was the Son of God. See, so I can see why you might have read over that, because Matthew plugs this in between, and when you read Luke and Mark, this account isn't in there. See, so in between the Lord yielding up the ghost, the veil ripping, and then, the centurion seeing the earthquake and all that and being shook, he let it be known, look, there was an event that occurred. Okay. But this event occurred after his resurrection. But since he was on that topic, he mentioned that in there. Okay. However, they didn't rise before Yahushua, all right, was buried. Okay. So now addressing the last part here that says, they were raised. Now, please, what kind of bodies did they have? They had regular bodies. They had regular bodies. It wasn't like they had any extraterrestrial bodies that allowed them to just rise up. No, your body breaks down into the earth. But remember, when you're dealing with Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, he has the power to put together all the specific elements in their specific way to remold that body, to remold that body and raise it back up, to fix that same body up and prepare it, and then have your spirit come into it. The Lord has the power to do that. Okay. So in this case, you could say that's what happened. It doesn't say how long those people were dead for, so their body must have been already broken down into the earth, but the Lord can the same way he can break it down, he can build it up. Okay. And lastly, I want to get here the book of John, the 11th chapter, because I had mentioned this about the resurrection of Lazarus, right? So this is a good example. It says, John 11:1, now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus, of Bethany, the town of Mary, and her sister Martha. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore his sisters went unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. When Yahushua heard that, he said, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. So it doesn't mean that the Lord wasn't saying that Lazarus wasn't going to die, because Lazarus did die. But what he was saying was what's about to transpire is not as a form of judgment onto Lazarus, that the Lord is like, all right, I'm putting you to death. You come into the spirit world. That's the end of the story. But it's to the extent that he has to be sick and die so that I can come and revive him, and that glory can be manifest. Okay. He was, in essence, it was like being used as an example, to show the power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, not because the Lord was just saying, all right, I'm just going to put you to death. Okay. So it says, now Yahushai loved Martha and her sister Lazarus. When he had heard, therefore, that he was sick, he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. So you may say, well, why didn't he just go right away to go and heal Lazarus? But remember, Yahushua knew what had to take place. Lazarus had to die, okay, before Yahushua would go there and perform that miracle and resurrect him. It says, then after that he saith to his disciples, let us go into Judea again. His disciples say unto him, Master, the Jews of late sought to stone thee, and goest thou thither again? Now I believe when you read up before this, they had to, because they went to Jerusalem, and of course, like the disciples said, the Jews wanted to put him to death. So now they had to lodge somewhere elsewhere. Okay, but now he said, nope, we got to go back. Yahushua answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? Oh man, I mean the answers the Lord was giving them, man, shit. So it says, Yahushua answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbleth not, because he seeth the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night, he stumbleth, because there is no light in him. These things said he, and after that he saith unto them, our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go that I may awake him out of sleep. And mind you, at this point, the disciples are still learning, and so there's certain things the Lord says that goes over their head, and they're like, why? What? Like here he goes again. Like what does this mean? So, and to the Lord, he will curse them out. He'll get on them because, well, let's get to it. So it says here, so when Yahushua said this, that our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go that I may awake him out of sleep, he was really referring to Lazarus being dead. Okay, that's why he had them wait there 2 extra days. So he was referring to Lazarus being dead, and he was going to go raise him up from the dead. But his disciples didn't get it. Okay, it went over their heads. So when he said that Lazarus sleepeth, they all knew Lazarus was sick. So when he said Lazarus sleepeth, but I go that I may awake him, then said his disciples, Lord, if he sleep, he shall do well. So sort of like, well, isn't that a good thing? Because when you sick and you sleep, that's good. You're going to recover. Howbeit Yahushua spake of his death, but they thought that he had spoken of taking of rest in sleep. See, so it went over their heads. They thought he was talking about actual literal sleep. Then said Yahushua unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead. You see, so he had to basically say, you clearly you're not getting it. You didn't get it. Okay, you didn't understand that. It says, and I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent ye may believe. Nevertheless, let us go on to him. See, so it was to build their faith. And so he said, I'm glad for your sakes. All right, because I want you to witness what's about to happen. See the true power. All right. So I'm glad for the sake of you guys' faith building that I wasn't there when he died. So that way I can go there now, and you guys can witness the power of the Lord. So it says, to the intent that ye may believe. Nevertheless, let us go unto him. Then said Thomas, which is called Didymus, unto his fellow disciples, let us go also, that we may die with him. Then when Yahushua came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already. So at this point, his body is already, breaking down and decomposing. Now Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs off, and many of the Jews came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. And then Martha, as soon as she heard that Yahushua was coming, went and met him, but Mary sat still in the house. Then said Martha unto Yahushua, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. Right? Because the Lord could have just healed him. But I know that even now, whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it thee. Yahushua saith unto her, thy brother shall rise again. That's resurrection. Martha saith unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Guess what? In the when at the end of the day, Judgment Day as they call it, when Yahweh Shai comes back, people that are in the graves are gonna rise from the dead. They're gonna be brought up so they can get their judgment. And John speaks about that. It's written in the book of Revelation. It's written in the book of Isaiah. That's there. That's gonna happen. So there's a ultimate resurrection that's gonna happen in the last days. Okay, where the righteous are gonna be raised up and delivered, and those that are not, those that are not of the elect, they're gonna be raised up to get their judgment. Now, she said this, right? I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Yahushua said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believest thou this? She saith unto him, Yea, Lord, I believe that thou art the anointed, the Son of God, which should come into the world. Because they knew about the prophecy of the Messiah coming on the scene. And when she had said so, she went her way and called Mary her sister secretly, saying, The Master is come and calleth for thee. As soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came unto him. Now Yahushua was not yet come into the town, but was in the place where Martha met him. The Jews then which were with her in the house and comforted her, when they saw Mary, that she rose up hastily and went out, followed her, saying, She goeth unto the grave to weep there. So they thought, oh, she got up, because she got up so quickly. Because Martha, you could imagine she like whispered it to her that you know, the Yahushua is here, he's calling for you. So that's why she got up so quickly. Now they didn't hear that, the Jews that were around her. So they figured, oh, it just hit her. She's about to go to the grave and cry. It says, then when Mary was come where Yahushua was and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. When Yahushua therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping which came with her, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled, and said, Where have ye laid him? They said unto him, Lord, come and see. Yahushua wept. Then said the Jews, Behold, how he loved him, because they could see the love Yahushua had for Lazarus. It says, And some of them said, Could not this man which opened the eyes of the blind have caused that even this man should not have died? So he had spiritual power. Couldn't he have saved him so he didn't have to die? Yahushua therefore again groaning in himself cometh to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Yahushua said, Take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, saith unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he hath been dead 4 days. So he stinketh because his body is decomposing, is breaking down, rotting. Yahushua saith unto her, Said I not unto thee, that if thou wouldest believe, thou shouldest see the glory of God? So Yahushua knew exactly what he was doing and exactly what he had to do. That's why in the beginning of the chapter it says that he waited, after hearing Lazarus was sick, he waited 2 more days. Okay, because this had to play out this way. Verse 41, then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Yahushua lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and I knew that thou hearest me always. But because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And when he had thus spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. So this wasn't no CNN Finding Jesus type shit where he no, Lazarus, he's crying and shit, looking like a frail Edomite man, and of course he wept, but the way they make it look is like he's just like, like this little, oh, Lazarus, come forth, Lazarus, oh no, Lazarus, no, all right. It says he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. So he commanded Lazarus. Now, at this point, remember the way your body and your spirit is designed is that when your body becomes uninhabitable, it's broken down, the spirit has to leave. It has to go back to the spirit world, as we read in Ecclesiastes 12:7. So in this case, Lazarus' spirit was in the spirit world and his body had broken down. That's why it gave off that scent. But when Yahushua commanded him, right, verse 44 says, and he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Yahushua saith unto him, loose him and let him go. And this was because the body that Lazarus had that was breaking down, causing that stench, was healed. All right, it was fixed. It was made new again, and it was made habitable, so that Lazarus' spirit could then come back down into it, and he can rise again. Because the body without the spirit is just gonna lay there. It can't do anything. It's inanimate. Okay, but when the spirit enters it, that's when it rises. That's when it comes alive. Okay, so that's in this case, that's what happened. When the Lord called down Lazarus' spirit and his body was fixed, he was then able to come back alive. Okay, and come forth out of the grave. Of course, he still had, they would wrap you up in the grave clothes and, put you in the sepulcher. So he still had that on him. Verse 45, then many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the things which Yahushua did, believed on him. That was the whole objective. Okay, because they knew that he could heal people. They knew about the miracles he had performed, but to do something like this, that was on a high level. Okay, and that would definitely boost their faith as well as the disciples' faith on a higher level. So it says, but some of them went their ways to the Pharisees and told them what things Yahushua had done. So that's the main part that I wanted to bring out. And this was also an example of resurrection. Okay, the Lord had resurrected Lazarus. So Lazarus came back alive in the same body, because the Lord fixed his body and then called his spirit to come back into it, and he was made alive again. Okay, so to recap, to answer the question, the people that rose, they didn't rise during the Messiah's death. They rose back in Matthew 27:53. They rose after Yahushua's resurrection. Okay, so after Yahushua had risen. And like I said, he wasn't the first to rise from the dead, because I gave accounts of others that had come back from the dead. But Yahushua was the first to conquer death. Okay, so death has no power. It says, and actually that's why he told Martha in John 11 and where we at? There we go. That's why he told Martha, John 11:25, Yahushua said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Because Yahushua knew that he was going to conquer death, and through him we would conquer death. So death would have no power on us. That's why he said, and whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Okay, so he was the first to conquer death. Hence, he has the keys to hell and death. Okay, and those that were that rose from the grave, they didn't have any special bodies. It was just their original bodies they had that the Lord put back together and had their spirits come back in it, and they rose again. Okay, so Lord willing, that was edifying and that answered your question. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.